truth is, adding value will never go out of style.
Hello, and thanks for joining us for another Five Things podcast. This is a bit of a special edition. So, full disclosure, I am wearing the wig. I dyed the beard. But we're actually doing a podcast today with these three beautiful professionals. And part of our podcast today is going to be the 5 worst things that guys are doing out there when approaching women. So we're going to have some general conversation. I've got some experts here with us today. And so ultimately, guys, listen up. And if you get offended, you're probably the problem, I'm guessing. And so ultimately, let's have everybody introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Melissa Root.
Right.
Hi, I'm Meredith.
Meredith.
Amanda.
See, Melissa's so genuine and open. She put her second name out there.
She did.
Now all the stalkers can find you and torture you online.
Yeah.
So thank you, ladies, for joining us. And just full disclosure, we're getting ready for a theme party. It's a birthday party. I turned 45 at midnight tonight. So
Happy birthday, happy birthday.
I survived another year, so pumped about that. But we're getting going tonight. And what I wanted to do tonight is ultimately talk about the 5 worst things that guys are doing out there dating. And ultimately, I'm probably going to lose this wig here shortly. It's hot. But ultimately, dating in general in 2019, let's face it, it's not the easiest thing.
It's rough. It's rough out
There's a
there.
lot of complaining going on. So
Brutal.
I will open up the floor to the ladies, and whoever wants to start first. Ultimately, let me ask you this. Melissa and I have known each other for, 5 years now. And so we go way back. And we've had a lot of great conversations. I'm just going to start off by saying, listen, if I'm a guy and you're gracious enough to connect on Facebook, and I go back and I like 48 of your posts from 1973,
It just
like,
shows you're stalking. He actually went back to MySpace.
right,
Yeah.
right. So ultimately, that's not good.
I have had that multiple times. We all have. We've discussed it.
And so here's the thing, you almost want to take out a restraining order, guys. And
Don't take out more than 2 or 3 likes
Oh,
at
yeah,
a
it was
time.
like 3 likes
You don't have to
max.
dive. You don't have to dive that deep. No.
right, so it's not a positive.
And go back maybe 5 posts max.
Agreed.
Don't go back 5 years.
There's nothing wrong with kind of getting a vibe about somebody, because you want to check them out secretly.
Right. You can stalk them, but
you-
don't let them know you're stalking you.
It's informational. You're doing research.
Pretend you're an FBI agent undercover.
Right. The one thing I'll say about Melissa and I, we were in a picture in this was my friend's party in upstate, or not upstate, uptown Charlotte, which is not downtown. It's uptown. You get yelled at if you say downtown. But literally, we were both in a picture. I tagged her. And I would get likes 4 months after the fact. And I would text her what are these guys doing?
this?
A year after we took this picture, guys are liking the picture with Melissa doing this right here. There's nobody with her, she's single, blah, blah. And at the end of the day, it's oh my God, these guys are creepers and they don't even know it.
No idea.
So.
Do not do that, guys. Don't go that far back on Instagram, Facebook, nothing.
It's a bad thing.
Yeah.
So ultimately, let's share some horror stories, because I know the ladies got the stories more than the guys do, no question.
Horror stories about what?
Just about.
We have a
So let's do this. Let's say that ultimately what I'm talking about is guys that we're normally the ones that are going to have to initiate, and that's never comfortable. So ultimately there's a million different approaches. You can use my favorite pickup line, which never works, is are you from Iraq originally? Because you're making me want to bag that ass up,
I've never heard it.
I haven't
No.
gotten that one.
I would
original.
I would never say that for the record.
Yeah.
But ultimately, what are some of the things that jump out to you? And we'll start over here. What are some of the things that jump out to you that this guy tried to approach you, and it's God, you're just doing this all wrong?
Let's see. It would be, well, I like your purse. I can see you shop well. Thank you, Captain Obvious. I'm glad you can recognize a national brand.
Okay.
Next.
So he's
What
trying to
else
break
you
the
got?
ice just
Right.
really bad.
Right.
Okay. All right. Next up.
The approaching, I don't know that I've had bad ones. I've had one recently though, where the guy did approach me just a couple weekends ago, and was kind of just well, they're too aggressive at first. They like get your number and then it's like nonstop texting. And then if you don't reply, I got a friend request on Facebook. And so I go on Facebook, I kind of look at his profile and I end up texting him back. And I'm like, hey, it kind of looks like you're in a relationship. His reply goes, yeah, I am. I guess it's just bad timing. Like, I mean, this was going on for days, these text apps. And then,
Jeez.
yeah. It's like,
See, that's kind of bad timing if you're in a relationship.
yeah, you think.
Right.
So maybe, I guess the advice would be, like, maybe just don't.
Maybe
Don't
be
be in a
single when you're
relationship.
approaching something.
So yeah, don't be in a
Isn't that
relationship.
difficult?
Make sure you're not-
approaching, Or also, like, maybe just try to hide that. Or
Maybe just don't be married with kids when you're
Right,
out
right.
hitting on women, maybe?
Exactly.
I don't know.
Yeah, I like the cheesy pickup lines. They seem to work for me.
So everybody's a little bit differently,
A little bit
seriously.
different.
Like, to me, the way I look at it, like if I ever said something like that, like it's just to get a laugh. Like I'm going to laugh and like break the ice, but it's not like this line's going to work. You know what I mean? God, this wig is terrifying me. But Melissa, I know you've had a variety of things just based on our conversations.
Not Brad.
Not Brad.
So let me ask you this. I'm a guy. We connect online, for example, because let's face it, a lot of people connect online. This is 2019. If I send you 48 messages and you don't reply, should I keep sending messages?
I have gotten guys, not just one guy, at least 10 guys on Facebook, which I don't even use that much anymore. I love Facebook,
Right.
but I don't pay attention to the messages as much anymore. But one guy, hi, sends a little
The
shaky
waves.
hand.
Yeah.
The way.
Hi.
Hey.
they poke you.
Hi. Next
The
week,
poke's good.
hi. No reply back. Hi.
Sir,
Next week later.
hi.
And it's been I'm at least a year now.
Right.
This one particular person, I've not replied once. Guys,
Give up.
give up after maybe 4 highs.
Yeah. Also know that everything
Something.
that you're doing is getting screenshotted and
To
sent to a
friends.
group of
Again,
girlfriends.
That is
Yeah.
a
That's,
very
or that's
good
like
point.
yeah, or like a group of girlfriends.
I
So
think
just,
that's-
Very good point.
yeah, know before you send that text, there's a good chance it's getting a
And we do
screenshot.
screenshot
somewhere
every
else.
single moment of dating.
Which is awesome.
Yeah.
So ultimately, waving, I think, is there ever a good time to wave? Seriously.
In person.
Hi.
In person. In person.
In person.
Online, let's just forget about the waving,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
What about, I don't even know what poking is on Facebook. I know the term
Do
poking.
not poke me. That was so 10 years ago.
All right.
It's not even never. Don't ever poke me. Period.
So
Back
just
then,
don't
when
poke you.
Facebook was first created, a poke was funny.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, poking me. That has multiple meanings, but
All right.
but don't do it now.
Un-
Not cool.
unsolicited pokes are unacceptable, right? All right. Sounds reasonable. And do we have any good stories to share with some dating stories? We've changed the names to
We have millions.
we've changed the names to protect the victims
Yes.
and the aggressors. But we've got some good dating stories, I think, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Anybody want to throw one out there?
Not Brad. I think you should go first. Yours
I had a
is
guy that I
last.
was seeing that I had met through mutual friends, and he requested while we're on a lunch date that I shave my armpits. we're mid conversation, having a good time, and he just looks at me and says, "We can't go on a date like this."
This is before you guys even went out on the date.
Yeah, it was before
Yes.
before. I'm like what? Your armpits. We can't. You've got to shave them. And the first thing that went to my mind was, well, gosh, when did I shave them last? Like, I mean, I've been busy.
Like
but
full disclosure, you're not European.
Not
like
European.
you don't have a
She's well kept.
I shower
Right.
daily.
Yeah.
For the most part.
Right.
and I,
but it's not like you got
it's
someone in a
habit. When you
headlock,
get in
right?
there, you
Right.
shave. So
Right.
I thought, what, like 2 weeks ago or something? No, it was yesterday. He just was
Super OCD.
particular. And so before we went to our next event, where it was a golf tournament, and I wanted to meet a lot of friends that I had already there, but he
Right.
had my ticket. I kind of sucked it up. When
Just
he
had to
went
go ahead and
back to
shave.
his place, he gave me a razor
Oh my gosh.
and some shaving cream, and he's standing in the bathroom like, while I'm shaving
I'm
my arm.
supervising. He's supervising.
Supervising.
Yes.
Then he grabs the razor and says, "You're not doing it correctly."
Are you serious?
Yes.
So short, light strokes, folks.
Yes.
If you ever
Is that
you
the key?
know,
Short, light strokes?
So you don't nick yourself.
yourself.
According
Um,
to
Not Brad.
not Brad.
He's
Brad.
stored in my phone as "Don't be a Brad."
Wow.
And I never talked to him again.
Okay.
And he wants his master's hat back, by the way, everybody.
Oh,
He
well,
demanded his master's hat back.
I see. That's pretty
He's
bad.
very vigilant about
That's
that.
pretty bad.
So he's either OCD,
Super
a
quirky.
hair freak,
It's called
Right.
a narcissist.
a
That's a
narcissist,
narcissist.
a little too picky, but
Yeah.
So, I just can't even imagine asking someone to shave their armpit like before we've even gone on.
like, dude, why aren't you looking over here?
Yeah.
Like coaching them how
Hello.
to correctly shave.
So we'll chalk that up as a red flag.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, red
Absolutely.
flag.
Yeah.
Sounds like a super
breaker.
hot,
Deal breaker.
super hot, passionate relationship once you're properly groomed.
I will say, I definitely make sure I shave though.
Right.
Now you're hyper vigilant.
Jeez.
Hyper vigilant.
Well
So,
taken care of now.
As far as 5 things, I mean, to me, being a guy, I've been single for, I don't know, 6, 7 years now. And, again, the burden of initiation is usually upon the guy. So, to me, there's a right way. There's a kind of a soft, way of doing things. And the biggest thing that I can say while you guys are thinking about some horror stories, I don't know if this wig's going to last much longer, is that I've seen so many of my women friends that a guy like comes onto them or throws it out there or goes on a date and this and that. Like full disclosure, like Melissa and I, just to back up a minute, we met originally. This is a great story, I think. And we've been friends for what, 5 years now?
Don't tell my mom.
5 years now. So she was in
I
a,
see this.
so she was in a bathroom in a restaurant shaving her armpits. No, I'm just kidding.
Correctly.
So we were literally going to a Panthers game and we met each other. I mean, I'll keep it brief, but we went out on a date and we had a great time. But at the end of the date, I was dropping her off. I walked her to her door, right? And I'm like, I think you're awesome. I don't know that we have any chemistry. And you're like, oh, I'm so glad you said that. I feel the same way. And it's like, we've been friends ever since.
Yeah.
And, I got to tell you, the biggest thing that I see from guys is that they get offended. Man, the ego gets bruised. You're a fat pig if you don't like them. Like, they get nasty.
You're delusional. You're crazy.
You're
I've been
put in
ghosted
whatever
a
word you
lot,
want.
And it
Yeah.
hurts. It's an ego booster, cutter, whatever you want to
Right.
call it. But it hurts when you hear someone doesn't like you back.
Right.
But you either make the best of it, learn,
But you
from,
learn
it.
from it. Exactly. And you move
You
on.
could be a friend, and
And
Brian's
move
one of
on.
the best friends I've ever had.
Right.
I'm so glad that we weren't offended by it didn't work out. But,
Yeah.
it just, I would rather know right
Yeah.
away, like, not interested in you.
You
Instead
gotta,
of just never talking about it ever again.
right. And I mean, let's face it, you got to have chemistry if you're dating. I mean, you got to.
This is not gonna work.
Yeah, or it's I mean, nobody wants a wet piece of toast. I mean, you got to have chemistry, So at the end of the day, like I've developed friends over the years, women friends that'll reach out and they'll screenshot stuff to me and I'm like, I'm telling them
Not
like,
just your girlfriend.
yeah,
I have screenshots.
no, you
Brian,
screenshot
multiple
stuff to me and it's
times. What do I say
funny.
back to this guy?
Yeah, and it's like, and I literally, like, I've got a good friend of mine. She sent me some stuff, and it's an ex, and they're still talking, and he had been toxic. He had been negative in the past. I'm certainly not going to say any names, but I told her, I said, he's just trying to keep the door open so he can get laid whenever he wants to or this and that. Like, I'm giving her raw,
Breadcrumbing.
single guy feedback, And at the end of the day, when she drew a boundary, he got super nasty again and started being very insulting and things like that. And I said, sweetie, he's just an immature, ego bruised little boy. And that's why he's lashing out. He's lashing out because
Throwing a fit.
you drew a boundary and you're not going to give it up, based on his behavior in the past. And now you're the bad guy all of a sudden. So he throws out all these insults and things like that. And I told her, I said, listen, you just have to understand, like, this is all him. It's all him. And at the end of the day, like, he wanted it again. And he said a bunch of insulting things. And I'm like, that's clearly not true because that's what he wanted. Yeah. And when you drew a boundary and you wouldn't give that to him, now all of a sudden you're the worst person ever. And so, that's the biggest thing I see with being friends with women that are dating and seeing that is that guys like overreact, the egos get bruised and this and that. And, so don't take it personally.
It's tough, but I would rather know the truth.
100%.
I feel
I
there's
would.
zero respect in in each other anymore as
Yeah.
well. Like, where did the
Likewise.
respect go amongst each other? Like, where'd that fall off?
Even if it's been one date,
Yeah.
no respect.
So explain that a little bit. No respect, because I had
So, in regards to the multiple things, one, into just the way you communicate with somebody, just be cordial. There's such thing as courting a woman. I still believe you should still court somebody for a certain period of time. You don't need to go balls to the wall. I'm gonna sleep with you on the second date. This is gonna happen. Blah blah blah. Be respectful. Court them. Treat them how you'd want your sister, mother, a best friend, someone to be treated well.
Well
Don't
said.
just
Yeah.
be a jerk.
right.
You know, I think that's a lost commodity.
I could
It
see that.
is.
I could see that for sure. What do you
I
think?
really do.
Oh, I completely agree.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of lashing out after.
After they get
After
rejected,
a few
essentially, right?
incidences
Yeah.
where a guy, well, what did that guy, one guy text you back? He said,
Oh,
Oh, I gotta. I've been told I was a shady
one
character.
date.
shady
Shady
character.
character.
Shady.
Just
One
because
date.
she didn't like him back.
Yeah.
Just
Shady character.
Just so angry.
Yeah, just this whole blast thing. Also got a really interesting one time where I was told I wasn't. This is after 2 dates. I was told I wasn't worth someone's, and I wasn't worth someone's time, money, or dick. 2 dates, yeah, because I
Well,
didn't.
it must have
and
been
it like
little.
Because he didn't get what he wanted.
Well, yeah, it had been like 6
Right.
hours. I made him
Yeah.
feel unimportant because it was 6 hours. I didn't text him back, so.
That
I
that's
will-
called
Yeah.
that's called fragile, and that's called insecurity.
Very insecure. There's a lot of
Yeah.
insecure people out there.
absolutely.
A lot of stuff falls into that
Yeah.
category.
And somehow we absorb all that and we start to think that, like, wow, did we react that way? But no, it's the other person that they call gaslighting will gaslight you and
Right.
say, the opposite.
It's a great term. It
Right.
really is. Yeah.
Look it up.
So if you don't know what
Yeah, look it
gaslighting
up.
is, look it up. All right, so welcome back. We had to get another round of drinks, and we're back here, and we're going to jump right into the 5 things topic. So ultimately, we've come into the conversation that let's just talk about the 5 worst things that are going on with dating. So
Faux pas.
faux pas, like do not do, that sort of thing. So ultimately, I'll start off with number 1. So fellas, let's say someone connects with you online, just being way too aggressive online. You're messaging, you're liking pictures from 6 months ago, you're waving, you're sending your 18th
Poking.
DM with no response. Like, at the end of the day, there's a fine line between showing somebody you're interested and looking like Jason from Friday the 13th, so ultimately that's not recommended.
Yeah, as
right?
I said, we see it. If we don't respond, there's a reason.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're sending me 15 messages, I'm still not going to respond. So
Take a
just-
hint.
Yeah. After the 20th one, it's been 3 months. All of a sudden, I'm like, yes, I do want to go to the lake today. No, no. not
Yeah, like
happening.
now here's one thing that I will say as a guy, like if you watch a Hollywood movie, like and the guys are going way over the top and this and that, like women see that as romantic.
Well, because they're usually good looking, though. Like,
Well,
they're usually movie stars.
Brad
But-
Pitt.
Yeah,
but-
Brad
but
Pitt
again,
was a bit, okay.
you know, but that I guess that's a difference. Like if Brad Pitt is stalking you online
Right.
or stalking you,
We're not getting the
Right.
Liam, whatever that guy's name
Hemsworth.
is. Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
I got it.
It's usually the guys that have no chance are the ones that have the balls to do
Right.
it.
Yeah.
I will say
And I
that
appreciate that, but
right.
if I don't respond after 15 times, not going to.
Especially if you've never met somebody,
Right.
right? Like, you
Yeah,
know,
it gets
just
creepy.
relax.
Creepy.
You know,
Very creepy.
so that's number 1. Number 2, we'll talk about what was one of the other topics we discussed.
Being too aggressive.
Too aggressive.
Sexually.
Right out of the
Right
gate.
away.
Yeah.
Right. So let's expand on that a little bit. Like little innuendos, a little.
Innuendos or just straight up asking for nudes.
Yeah.
Nudes right
yeah,
out of the
they-
gate.
Or sending,
Or, yeah,
like,
or
without
sending
even
unsolicited dick-
asking if
yeah.
you send them.
Like, oh,
Yeah.
Right.
Hey.
8 a.m. Here's a dick pic.
Right.
You wake up in the morning,
Good
you're like,
morning. Hairy dick.
Yeah.
Not happening.
I mean,
Right.
We know what you're after.
Yeah,
but if,
right.
if you actually were interested in us, which you probably
Yeah.
aren't if you're doing that,
or
you
even
have
like
no
date
chance.
one, like pushing to go home with you. Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
it also just, it does, okay, I know where guys' heads are at, it's fine, like, whatever, we all like sex, but it
natural.
just,
Get
it does, but it just makes you feel just devalued, it really does.
Again, it goes back to respect. Just
Yeah.
respect the person.
Just don't be too forceful of things.
It,
Right.
it should
Let
just
happen
flow. If it
naturally.
if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't.
It'll happen another
You know,
night
now-
if you get date 2 or 3.
Now I will say, being a guy, we're usually initiating,
And I love initiating.
and there's a
love
balance
that.
there,
Be
but
a man.
but to be honest, like there's a balance, and you have to understand that you're pushing a boundary a little bit, and when you get that resistance, just relax.
Respect, yeah, respect.
Just
it.
relax,
Back off.
respect. Like, hey, there's no expectations. Like, I'm feeling it. Maybe I'm a guy. I feel it a little bit easier, right?
I went on a date a few months ago, and the guy just wouldn't stop pursuing, trying to get with me. And it was just so annoying that I had to
It's a
keep
turn
saying,
off.
I'm not ready. I'm not,
Yeah.
like, stop trying to touch me,
much.
take
Right.
your shirt off, like, just
Do you guys
slow
remember
down.
that movie? He's just not that into you. I
Yeah.
really go on that. They're just not that into you. Like if they're not responding, they're not that into you. Period. And it's pretty simple.
Right.
If
And
they're
it,
not making
it
the
might
time
not
for
be
you,
right
they're
away
not that
either.
into you. Yeah. And I don't like this 3 days wait thing. No. If you're into somebody, text them, but a respectful text. Hey, had a great date. Thank you for coming out. I appreciate it. Had a great time. When can we follow up?
Right.
Something.
That makes
You know?
sense.
Don't play
Treat it
games.
as a job interview. Don't be crazy.
Don't be crazy.
Don't be crazy is a good note. So we got the too aggressive online. We got the talking sex,
on a date.
talking sex right out of the gate.
Yeah.
/ too aggressive on a date. What else do we have?
Honesty.
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 This is a big deal. And again, I would love to hear the ladies' perspectives on this. I got a guy's perspective, and what's interesting is I've got a Brian Smith perspective from a decade ago, where I wasn't the same guy as I am today. So I'm
Right.
kind of curious about. Anyway, so honesty from the ladies. What are some of the things that you think? I'm gonna have to lose this thing.
Well, I mean,
I'm
even
burning
on
up.
dating websites, I've met up with guys and they don't look anything like their profile, which that's gonna happen. I like the fact that you took the time to put together a profile that's deceiving, but
Good
if you
for
don't
good
look-
effort.
if you don't look
Just
anything
like,
like your
for you.
picture, I'm not just gonna all of a sudden see you in person on a date and be like, wow.
Yeah.
If you just that's starting your relationship off
What-
On a lie.
On a lie, absolutely.
Don't do it. Be
Like-
Women do the
upfront.
same thing.
Be
Women
trans.
can
They
do.
do.
The same
And they do.
Completely.
And they
all
do.
the time. Like little up angle, make
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's little things like if it's all headshots of a lady,
yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a good.
it's
good little
might be a
tidbit.
little
If a
bigger
guy
girl,
only or a girl only has.
and that's
big
okay.
eyes,
But here's the
I would, what we're talking
don't
about though is like at
over-filter.
this point in time, I guess I want to address how we're all mid 30s to mid 40s,
Late
right?
30s.
Right.
45,
So,
thank you.
Yeah,
I'm 21.
calling me out.
23. No, but like mid 30s, mid 40s, we all have baggage. We do.
Right.
I mean, it just is what it is.
Everybody does, yeah.
So
It's
like,
called life.
yeah, but don't
Life.
hide it. You know, like
Yeah.
we were kind of talking about the kid thing,
Right.
about like when to address.
Right.
But you right away. You have
Agreed.
children, right? And what I
Like
was
you
saying,
said, speak about them kindly.
Yeah, and
don't
yeah,
act like
speak of
there's
them
some
kindly.
giant,
They're not a-
weird secret.
right?
And that
yeah.
goes into being honest and being truthful. Just let us know up front.
Yeah. Also, like no one wants to know that the guy they're with is like a deadbeat dad. You know.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. So just
Oh,
right.
Just thought of one. Don't talk about your exes on a first date. I've had that
It's a
happen
great rule of
multiple
thumb.
times.
Great rule of
Maybe
thumb.
even a month or two. And
I would
just-
say
and
even
don't compare.
months down the
Don't
road.
compare.
Don't even
And
talk about them.
Right.
I
Until
get
you're
asked a lot though.
you do?
A lot. Yeah.
Really?
A lot. Like first date, they're like, what's everyone wants to know your background. It's like, yeah.
You can be vague. Be vague.
Sure.
Up front.
Absolutely
Be
agree.
vague.
Be
Because the
vague.
past is the past. Keep it in the past.
Sure. At the end of the day, I mean, I think ultimately when you have, we're talking about don't talk about your exes. I kind of want them to talk about their ex personally
See, I
because
think this might be a guy thing.
see,
yeah.
well, but here's the thing. Like, I'm gonna know if they're talking a bunch of drama and this and that, and the guy was the problem and this and that. Like, I'm gonna know I don't want to date this person because she's taking no responsibility for her own place in life. Like when I talk about my ex, it's in a very positive way. My ex-wife, I wouldn't have married her if she wasn't great. But I got a lot of shit that I did that in hindsight I would do differently.
Right.
And you know what? I think she's grown a lot over the last 7 years. Like, I think she would own a bunch of stuff.
Right.
Like, we're very good friends today. So I think that if I'm a guy asking women about their previous experiences or this and that, or if they're coming out of marriage, that gives me a real good insight into the woman. Like, is she dramatic?
Right.
Because the last thing I want is someone that, hey brother, the last thing I want
Food's here.
is someone that is drama, and we're gonna date for 90 days and it doesn't work out, and now they're out there trashing me
Right.
They're gonna
be-
shit
because
talk
it doesn't work. Like, I'm gonna nip that in the bud. I would rather not even date a person like that.
Fair, yeah.
So
Say
Fair enough.
most of my exes would still want to be with me, and it just shows a lot about your character.
Sure.
And you with your ex-wife, I mean, if she's still a good friend of yours.
sure,
that's
yeah, we
so
get along
on,
great,
and-
you know. And again, obviously the
but I
marriage
also
didn't
don't
work, but
think it should be said on the first few dates either.
Yeah.
You don't want to be compared to anybody, and I think that happens
Sure.
more frequently than it should.
sure. So long story short is, what was the principle there? What was I got a terrible memory. Honest,
Yeah.
just be honest. And you know what?
Honesty on looks, honesty
Yeah.
on the past, honesty,
Yeah.
be
Dick pics on the first
transparent.
date.
Yeah.
No dick pics early on, unsolicited DPs, let's just say DPs. So ultimately, we'll wrap up the couple other things. We got the party kicking on a high gear here in a minute. So what were our other topics? We got 5 things, like the 5 biggest things. We got honesty. Just
Love
be
bombing.
honest when you love bombing.
Yeah.
I'll let you guys. You got the love bomb topic.
It's all the time. I mean, immediately.
Coming in hard.
Yeah.
Coming in hard.
Even sometimes they're like, oh, there's just something about you. I just want, like, if you haven't even met
You're
them
just
yet,
unlike
they're just like,
anybody
where I'm
else.
like,
This
you've
is
seen my
great.
pictures and we've chit chatted on a text thread, whatever.
Right,
Yeah. It's
right.
like, I mean, that's a red flag, and immediately, and like, you don't know me. You don't know me. Like,
Right.
yeah. So it's just too much, too strong.
Don't try to play
Third-
Prince Charming.
Yeah, third
when
date
you
in,
don't
you're trying to
know
make
me.
plans with me like 6 months down the road, inviting me on vacations, like whatever. And then as
Oh,
soon
let's
as
go to Jamaica.
right, yeah, as soon as you like,
We just recently had this happen where this guy she was dating ended up messaging me, and
yeah,
And there's just something about you.
yeah,
Right.
Like, yeah, well, sure, yeah, same thing. But
Right.
don't ask me to do things like way down the road and then be surprised when I'm like, oh, okay, well, I think this is going somewhere, but then, yeah, and then next thing I know, you're like hitting on someone else, and
So-
it's like, it's obvious. Just be genuine. Just be like, hey, this is the first date. I'm here to meet you to see if I want to go on a second date, and that's it. Like,
Yeah.
like we don't have to do this whole, yes, like
Bullshit.
yeah,
Right.
all like yes.
So my rule of thumb is this: when guys come in really hot and hard, and they're bringing the A game, and they're just gonna do this and that, you literally within 30, 60, 90 days, when they're that high early on, it's gonna be that low. They came on that high and they love you in 30, 60, 90 days. They're gonna be done with you in 30, 60, 90 days.
Right.
That quick.
They're
And
coming
so
in hot with a red flag. They're like, hey,
Waving that red
yeah.
flag.
And so to me, ultimately, you know what really that spells for guys is guys are insecure, and they need that validation from the woman. They need the woman. They need that part. And as soon as they get it, and they can get it from somewhere else,
happening
and they're gonna ditch you, and
Receive it from the
Yeah.
next person.
right.
especially with
That's what I've seen
we've
that a
been
lot.
online dating a lot.
Okay.
Through the apps.
All right.
and It's just been pretty vicious, but it's a lot of that
All right.
where they just need a
Just coming in hot and
ego
heavy,
boost.
ego boost.
Who,
Now what?
who likes me? Who responds?
I will tell you this: the other side of that, and I've never done the apps or anything like that, so I can't speak about that.
Don't do them.
Well, I just I do a lot of.
Somewhat.
Stay away.
Right. I will tell you this, that there's a lot of women out there that love the attention
Yes.
from guys. And so they'll do a lot of things to get attention, but at the end of the day, like, they have no intention of actually meeting or doing this or doing, they
It's
just,
the same,
they crave the
yeah.
attention. So it's a very
Yeah.
similar type thing. And you just want to sniff that out, because at the end of the day,
It's a numbers
It's a
game.
tennis match.
it's a tennis match.
Total
Certainly.
tennis match.
It is a numbers game. The more you throw it out there,
Easy,
Maybe
Melissa. We're not talking about your dating tactics. So last thing here, and I am hard pressed to think about what we talked about. The last thing we've got coming in too fast, coming in too hard and hot and heavy.
Right.
We've got the
Honesty.
honesty. You know, just be honest about where you're at in life and what you're thinking and what you're feeling
Oh, it was the intentions. That was
the
it.
intention.
and intentions. Okay, so here's something that, and again, I'll just give my rule of thumb, is that I just come in looking to make a friend. And honestly, like,
Great approach.
and I want to add value. I want to be a positive. I just want to come in and at the end of the day, let's see what happens. You know, I don't love you. You're beautiful, this and that. Like, and like
What else do you have to value?
yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's like, what doesn't mean there's chemistry. It doesn't mean we're going to get along. It doesn't mean you might want 4 kids. Like, I might not want any. Like, at the end of the day, it's just, I just want to meet someone. I want to make a friend. To me, the way I look at dating is I meet someone and there's levels. We might hit a level and it's like, hey, we're really cool. But we don't click, like we don't agree politically, spiritually, like we just don't really line up. But you're a great person, and we can be casual acquaintances. Maybe we become friends, like Melissa and I. I honestly consider you one of my top, like 5 to 10 friends on the planet.
Right back at
Like
ya.
literally, just I love you. And there's just never been chemistry. It just isn't there. It is what it is. That being said, it's not a bad thing.
It just shows your character. I had a guy I dated, and it turns out he had had a few really bad real estate deals just fall through, and he was struggling, and he couldn't make it work, and that's why he did ghost me. And it was unfortunate, but he ended up coming out later just telling me that's what happened. He was honest about it. And I threw him a few leads. I gave him some business.
Nice.
And I think it just,
Yeah.
that's the way it should be.
And
I
listen,
want to help you.
But you never
Sure.
want to be with someone like that. 'Cause my
No.
mom always told me, she goes, your father never came home burdening the stresses he had at work.
Right.
He always let it go as soon as he walked through that door. So she says, you never want to be with
Right.
someone who's like that.
Right.
But just
But I
don't-
think to your point though, what you were saying is, don't get butthurt if it doesn't work out
Right.
afterwards. Like
I didn't get butthurt.
Yeah,
I
no,
was
you
like, let me
obviously
help
didn't,
you. If
but
you're
it kind
struggling,
of
I
goes
want-
back to the thing we were talking about earlier, where guys will send these like nasty text messages, and it's like, well, okay, it didn't work out. Like, you know what I mean? It's just not gonna
Yeah.
work out. We can still be buddies. I mean, I just.
They don't know how to be.
I
They
know.
don't
I hate the
know
whole
how to be.
social media thing too. I mean, it's kind of cheesy, but I've noticed like some guys that I've dated, like on Instagram, I get unfollowed, and I'm like, we can still be friends. We went on a couple dates, didn't work
Sure.
out. It's fine. Let's just be mature
You
about
really
it.
that
Right.
butthurt you have to
Yeah.
unfollow me?
Yeah, it's
Right.
fine.
Because they're
Why?
15 and they don't know how to react any other way but to unfollow.
Yeah.
That's their
So
reciprocation.
it's ultimately emotionally insecure. But other than that, I think we've all agreed.
5 things turned into 15.
That's all right. We got a lot of
Turn
stuff
it
here.
into 25
Right.
eventually.
So we're actually running out of time. We got the party actually starting. So we may have to continue this on Halloween, October 20 or 19th. But thank you, ladies, for joining us tonight,
Thanks for
and joining
having
me,
us.
and
Yeah, thank you.
giving some feedback to the fellas and dating in general. It's a tough battle out there. So thank you. Until next time, thank you. Hello, this is Brian Smith, and thank you for watching. Please subscribe for more valuable content.